welcome to the Red Wagon Estate Planning and Elder Law Show, hosted by me, yours truly, Jeffrey Belomo, where we discuss all things estate planning and elder law, and well, hey, anything else we want to talk about. And under the "and anything else we want to talk about" category, I have a dear friend with me today, Dave Romeo. Dave, how are you doing?
Never better, Jeff. Good to see you as always.
Oh, you as well, man. I've been excited for this podcast since the day we exchanged emails. So.
Yeah.
I'll just do a quick disclaimer for my listeners. Remember, please do not take legal advice from this show or any other show for that matter. If you're looking for legal advice, please contact an attorney in the state that you live in who is licensed to practice in the area that you are looking for. Most preferably, an attorney who actually does the area that you're looking for and specializes in it. Even better. I am a York and Lancaster-based estate planning and elder law attorney, offices in York and Lancaster. We offer weekly workshops on pre-planning, estate planning, as well as crisis planning or Medicaid planning, special needs planning, probate administration, and trust administration. We offer weekly workshops so that what happens in my family does not happen to yours. If you're looking for estate planning and elder law advice, please check us out at www.belomoassociates.com or 717-845-5390. And I have a dear friend of mine. We met several years ago. I'm going to say 2000, probably 2009, somewhere in that area. Am I close, Dave?
2011, I believe.
Oh, wow. See that? I'm off. My numbers are off, man. Well, it's a pleasure. We met through a dear friend of both of ours, Lou Lies. So I'm certainly always forever grateful to him for the introduction. And it's been a pleasure to work with you all these years and actually not only have you as a client, but work as a client of yours. And I've got to see you on both sides, which is really kind of neat.
All right, right, same here. We're both clients of each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for my listeners, Dave, would you tell everybody what you do and what your Dave Romeo Network is all about?
Yeah, well, for the past 25 years, I've been running Dave Romeo's seminars and coaching. And so when I do the seminars, I tell people these are seminars that entertain, enlighten, and inspire. And when I coach people, I say my best coaching client is someone who is serious about improving their sales or success.
Wow. And if somebody was looking into, seminars or coaching, where would they find you? How would they locate you?
Everything's very easy. Like it says behind me, just go to romeonetwork.com. Everything that you could want to find is going to be in one location.
I figured. I thought I was giving a layup there. That was a nice, easy one, especially with your background. I love it. Yeah, you couldn't have propped that even better. Oh, man. So what sort of seminars? I mean, I know I've attended several of them, but what sort of seminars do you have and who is kind of your target market?
Well, I'd say the easiest way to know what I do, since there's now 101 different topics, anything that an entrepreneur might want to learn to be successful in business, it's a topic I cover. So that covers sales, it covers customer service, it covers leadership, it covers networking, it covers goal setting. So imagine 101 different topics to pick from.
Yeah, and they're I mean, I've only seen a handful of them, a fraction of them, but the ones that I have are absolutely incredible. Do you have a favorite by chance? Is there one that kind of is your kind of baby?
Yeah, there's two.
Okay.
One is the most popular one that I do, and that's Designing Your Destiny. And I think that one is so popular because it's all about goal setting, and that crosses every line, whatever stage of life you're in, how old, how young you are. Everybody wants to know how to achieve their goals. That's the most popular. My personal favorite is Mastering Your Self-Esteem and Your Destiny. It's one of the original 7 seminars I started with, and I did it because I wanted to see if I could help my wife, who's a little bit shy, unlike me, and I saw so many other people that their self-esteem was holding them back, and I wanted to be able to have a vehicle that could transform their success and their relationships going forward.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I actually did attend that one, and I love that one. That's probably one of my favorites, actually, to be honest. It's funny that you said that. I've never asked you that question before, so I didn't know what you were going to say. So that is wonderful. And is there a way, Dave, if somebody wants to attend some of your seminars but can't come in person for some reason, is there a way that they could do that as well?
Yes, well, actually, the pandemic was very, very good to me because what it did was open up the seminars to a nationwide audience. So through Zoom, we've been able to have the seminars ever since 2020 all be available live streaming or in person. Some of them now are only live streaming, believe it or not. But now we have people on a regular basis coming from New York and New Jersey and Florida and Idaho and California and Texas and Kansas and Utah coming and being part of the seminar. So it's wonderful. In fact, this year, Jeff, I actually have 2 season pass holders who live in other states.
No way.
Yes.
I did not know that. How cool is that? Wow, that's incredible. And how, just through, I assume, just through online sort of search engines, and is that how they're locating you?
I think most of them are probably more through Facebook. People I've been
Okay.
able to reconnect with, stay
Okay.
in contact with, and I think the theme for this show is all about relationships and the power of them. And what I've learned is, and you probably know this, I mean, think about when you graduated, let's say high school. Okay, you probably had some friends you were really close with.
Yep.
But my guess is you're probably not as close to the same friends, or all of them, as you were back then, right?
Absolutely. Correct.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the nice things about Facebook is it's given me an opportunity to reconnect with people I'd lost contact with. In some cases, I know people that I haven't seen since my 20s that I'm now back in contact with, that are attending the seminars because we found a way to get back in touch with each other. And I want to tell you a Jeff Belomo story that you don't know that talks about the power of relationships. So last Thursday, I was on my way to a networking event in Lancaster. Now, you had a boot camp last week. What day was that boot camp?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, the day before I was going to this networking event. And you know, one of our common clients and friends is Susan Chenault from Calling All Customers.
Of course. Yep. Absolutely.
Susan took a picture of some of the business cards of people she met at the boot camp, one of whom was Tim Brown, who I don't know at all.
Yeah.
And so she said, I met him before through one of Jet's networking groups. He was there yesterday. I said I would send this along. So she sent me his card on the way to the networking mixer. I called Tim. We're talking. I said, you and I don't know each other, but we both know Jeff Belomo. So as we were talking, it was like the door just opened up because the comfort level was there because we both know and love Jeff. So we talked to him. I told him about the Super Seminar Mega Mixer coming up. And the very next day, your customer, Tim Brown, became my customer, Tim Brown, through the power of networking and relationships.
Well, I did not know that story, but that is so classic. I love it. I love it. You know, I always tell people when they ask, you know, what do you do for a living? I say, I'm in the business of relationships. That's what I think everybody is. You know, I mean, it's all about relationships. I love that story. I will definitely share that one again. That is a great story, Dave. I hope it works out well. I hope he's a customer for life. That is incredible. I love it. And testament to you and to Susan, too, for following up and staying engaged and you know, taking that door and making the phone call. Because a lot of people, I think, wouldn't take that step, which is a big testament to you.
Well, that brings us to another common theme that I think we have, and that is following up and following through and connecting the dots. So can I share another Jeff Belomo story? I know you know this one, but this is a
Please
good
do.
one. I like this one a lot.
Please
Okay.
do.
I met Jeff through a mutual friend, Lou Lies, Stages Planning Group. Now, Lou's been my client for many, many years, and Lou became a season pass holder. Lou introduced me to Jeff. Jeff became a season pass holder. Lou also introduced me to an accountant. The accountant became a season pass holder. And one day, Jeff called me up and he said, I'm planning to move my office. I've got a brand new space that I want to move into. Do you know anybody that would be interested in moving into my previous space? And I said, yes, you know this accountant? And he said, yeah, I know him because he's looking to move into another space. So lo and behold, the accountant moves into Jeff's space. So Lou Lies introduces me, season pass holder, to Jeff Belomo, season pass holder, who rents out his space to the accountant season pass holder. And all I did was connect the dots to people who already knew each other. So that's really valuable. If you want to have people drawn to you, what you want to do is be thinking of other people and figure out, who do I know who could benefit by meeting the other people I know. And that's what I found, Jeff. Just by connecting the dots, it just makes you so much more valuable to the people in your sphere of influence. I don't know if you ever heard this quote by Harvey McKay, but I love it. He said, "It's not what you know, and it's not who you know. It's what you know about who you know."
Oh, wow. I never heard that one.
Yeah.
Or if I did, I forgot it. But, well, and then, of course, Susan is assisting us, which was, a dear friend of yours and works with you. And she's making phone calls for us and following up. And it's so funny because I can tell the way she's trained. She's, Dave Romeo trained. And I love it because I know what to expect. I know exactly what I'm going to get. I know how she's going to follow up. I know the questions she's going to ask. I know that she will ask the right questions, that she won't take an answer, just at its face value. She'll dig, and that's incredible. I mean, the training that you provide is just invaluable.
Well, there's some things you can train and there's some things you can't train. But one of the things that you can train is just caring and knowing when to overstep your bounds in your customer's best interest. And I'll tell you, Jeff, one of the best things I got from that relationship was this. I gave Susan a list of people to call for me. These were customers I already had, but
Right.
most of the time I'm in the studio now. I'm recording all of my seminars, so nobody can do that for me. I've handed off some of the phone calls to Susan. And one day she called and she said, "Dave, I need you to call this customer. I spoke to him. He's having chest pains. He's on his way to the hospital. And it sounds very serious." I called him and I spoke to him 2 days before he passed away. Now, I never put a list for Susan to say, if any of my customers are at death's door, make sure that I know about it. She just knew with my relationship that this was serious enough to call me immediately and let me know. And thankfully, because of what she did, I was able to have that final conversation with somebody who's been my dear friend for 25 years. How do you put a price on that?
Did he or she know that it was life-threatening? Or
No. They didn't know that it was going to be so serious. He went in for one thing and passed away from something else.
Oh my gosh, I didn't hear that story either.
Yeah, and again, I never told her to do this. This was just
Right.
somebody that's saying, this is important. The relationship Dave has with his friends, he's going to want to know what's going on right now.
Yeah, you're right. You can't train that. I mean, that is not something the person either gets that or they don't, right?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, wow.
So when we talk about training, I see in watching the podcast with your daughter that she is definitely a chip off the old block. I love her personality. I love her passion for theater. As you and I were talking before, sometimes we get a little bit sidetracked with our perfectionism. Everybody has it. I have it myself. I love this quote. It's from the Sales Academy, Jeff. It said, in his later years, Pablo Picasso was not allowed to roam through art galleries by himself because he had been caught trying to improve on some of his masterpieces.
Oh my gosh, is that really?
Yeah, I love that. And I completely
Yeah.
get that because there's
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm standing in front of a group and I'm listening to them and I'm writing in the lesson plan notes on things I want to add because of what I just heard that would make it better.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, she definitely has a love for theater, very similar to Lou's daughter, and she definitely enjoys it and is passionate. If you've heard that podcast, you know exactly what we're talking about. There are two of them, and she just rambles on about stuff that she's excited about. And I decided just to shut up and let her ramble because she was having a ball, and she still talks about how much fun that was. So it was a good one. It was a real good podcast. So, Dave, do you know how did you get into Romeo seminars and coaching? Was there something that occurred or a passion or what happened?
Yes, this is probably one of my most popular stories and one of my favorite to tell.
Okay.
For years, I was a headhunter, a recruiter for the printing industry. And I became very successful at it. I became the number one recruiter for the United States in that field. But my company was changing its direction, and I decided to leave. What I didn't realize at the time is I had a non-compete agreement that was going to transfer to the successor company. Of course, I didn't know Jeff Bellomo back then. Otherwise, I could have gotten that answer very quickly. But be that as it may, I went to another staffing company, found out they couldn't keep me. They said, we're not going to be able to fight this. We're going to have to let you go. And I said, no, that's okay. I'm fine with that. And so I went to work for one of my printing clients for a little while to just fill in till my time expired. And while I was there was a man that was trying to fill my position full time. And he was doing the worst job I ever heard. I mean, the way he was presenting the candidate, I said, you know what, me and my big mouth, can I just give you some advice on how I would present this candidate? So I was trying to show him how to do it right. And he said, you know, it sounds like you and I should talk. Well, as it turned out, he was the owner of a third staffing company, and his business partner had just left, and his business partner was responsible for doing all the sales and the placements. So he made a great deal and offered me to come on board. And I said, well, this is great, except I still have a non-compete from the first company that I'm working for. He goes, we need you now. We will find something else to do, but just please come on board now. So I came on board in this company. And while I was trying to figure out what to do, the best training I had for being a coach was being a recruiter. Because think about it, Jeff, when people are looking for a job, they come into two different categories. One, you have the people whose self-esteem is shot, right, and you have to build them up and get them all pumped up to interview. Or you have the people that have a chip on their shoulder because they feel like they've been wronged and they come across being very arrogant. And right, so you have to make sure that they're thinking professionally. So I was coaching people all the time. Well, as this was occurring, I thought to myself it would be in my best interest if I improve my public speaking skills. By the way, my biggest fear growing up was public speaking.
No way.
Yes. So I signed up through the local Chamber of Commerce to take a Dale Carnegie course on public speaking. And I gave my name and the name of the new company I was working for. And the lady who answers the phone goes, oh, I know your business partner. I know what you do. Can you do a sales seminar for the chamber? Well, Jeff, I had never done a seminar in my life.
Oh.
And I said, sure. She said, what's it called? And I thought to myself, well, you know, I was doing some coaching down for a client in Knoxville, Tennessee. And the client said to me, you know, Dave, you ought to teach a class on the psychology of selling because you help explain what people think about when they buy. So I said, it's called the psychology of selling. So she booked me, and I thought I was off the hook, Jeff. And then she said, what else do you have? I said, well, let's see. I was down in Dallas, Texas, and I was doing some training for this company on team building. And I said, why don't we do the ultimate team building and empowerment workshop? And she loved it. She said, that's great. What else?
Oh, no.
Well, I was in staffing. I knew all about staffing. I said, why don't we do one called How to Hire Winners? And Jeff, you know my passion is customer service.
Yes.
And so I said, you know, why don't we do one called In Search of Legendary Customer Service? And so she said, this is great. So she booked me for all of these non-existent seminars at the time. Then I had to go home and write all of them. And then I called everybody I knew and begged them to please come to these seminars so they wouldn't get canceled. And then every time I called her back, I would come up with a new topic so that she would hire me and book me again. Think about that. Now there's 101 different topics. That's why there's so many, because I was trying to get more work. So I always say that woman was my guardian angel, because if she didn't answer the phone that day, who knows where I'd be? I'd probably be washing cars today or something.
Wow. I didn't know that story either. That is incredible.
Well, you know, one of my books, the subtitle is called Turning Mistakes into Masterpieces. Okay. And the title is Stumbling Onto Success. That's a perfect example of what stumbling onto success looks like.
Oh, how about it? Wow, and you've definitely done well. There is no doubt about it. And I also remember a story about you being in the Guinness Book of World Records, and I have to share that story with my listeners. So can you tell everybody how you got in?
I can tell you this, and you know, here's the funny part. Getting in the book, getting the Guinness World Record was easier than getting in the book.
Really?
Okay? Yes. So if you read the Stumbling Onto Success book, it has the whole story. So I'm not going to spoil it for you, but just to give you the setup, I was suffering from a broken heart, Jeff, when I was, 24 years old.
Okay.
And I couldn't find anybody else that I was really serious about again after that. And so I said, you know, if I don't find somebody I'm really interested by next summer, I think I'll just spend the entire summer bass fishing, because it will be my therapy. I'll be able to just be by myself, collect my thoughts, regroup, and it will be the one year that I could look back at that I fished as much as I wanted. So
Wow.
every weekend, every vacation day, every holiday, I spent in a little tiny inflatable boat bass fishing. And by the end of the summer, I'd caught 3,001 largemouth bass in 77 days of fishing. I fished my way into the Guinness Book of World Records. But here's the problem. I was documenting everything, and I was doing this for New York State, where I lived at the time. So I had a record and I had it authenticated. But when I was talking to the editor of the Guinness Book, he said, we believe you that you caught all the bass. The problem is we don't have a category for this, and we don't think there's enough people out there that would be interested in bass fishing. Well, that's when I learned something about myself, Jeff, because if they told me, well, somebody caught 10,000 bass, so that's not even close, I would have dropped it. But to have established a Guinness World Record that wasn't going to be counted, I couldn't live with that.
No
So
way.
I said, I'm already not in the book. They can't take me out of the book if I'm not in it. So
Right.
what I did was I contacted the fishing line company that I used, the tackle box company, the hook company, the rod, the reel, the boots, the motor, every product that I used, every tackle shop that I bought bait from, every, what do they call those, councilmen or township supervisors, wherever
Yeah.
I fished. I contacted all of them, outdoor writers. I said, I fished in this body of water in your town, or I used your fishing line to set a Guinness World Record, but they don't think it should be in the book because they don't think enough people were interested in bass fishing. Well, Jeff, I had to go to Minnesota to meet with one of the fishing companies, fishing tackle companies that wanted to use my likeness in an ad.
Right.
And I knew when I was going out of town, the editor from the Guinness book told me, he said, we're going to have to go to print over the weekend. I don't think we're going to put your record in, but we're going to decide then. So I came back and I called him and I said, I was just curious to find out what you decided. He said, well, we weren't planning to put your record in the book, but we got inundated with so many letters from all over the country, from so many different companies, that we decided to include your record in the book. By the way, same sentence, by the way, would you be interested in writing your own book on bass fishing?
Oh my goodness.
Well, after I
Wow.
came to, I said, I really would like to do that. This man, the editor, he had been the editor of the Guinness Book for 30 years. He was 70 years old. He was my editor for my book. I remember going to the Empire State Building in his office where he worked, and I spent a day in there learning about writing and editing. It was worth a year of college from what I learned from this man. Not
Wow.
only did he do that, he became my mentor and he edited my second book, also on bass fishing. And it just completely changed my life because you and I didn't know each other back then, Jeff. This was
No.
in 1984. And back then I was so shy and introverted that it forced me to come out of my shell getting into the Guinness Book. I said to myself, I don't know where this is going to take me, but I know one thing. I will never let my fear of public speaking hold me back and keep me from another opportunity.
Wow, Dave. That's incredible. I love that story. I cannot believe you were shy. I just have a hard time buying that, but wow.
Jeff, growing up in my mind, I always envisioned myself being a mail carrier.
Okay.
And it wasn't because I just wanted to work outside. I just thought I could go the entire day without talking and having a conversation with another human being. That's how shy I was. It was so bad in college, I used to tape record my class oral reports in my room and then go to school and play them back on the cassette player in front of the other 6 kids in the class.
Wow.
So, like I said, that Guinness World Record, it just completely changed my level of confidence. And just to give you an idea, another story that you don't know, this happened the same night that I got Tim Brown as my newest client.
All right.
I went to the networking event. I was in there for 2 hours. It finished up at 8. I left at about a quarter after 8. Now, a quarter after 8 now in April, Jeff, it's already dark outside.
Right.
I'm going back to my car at the other end of the parking lot in this golf resort.
Yep.
I'm in the parking lot and I hear a voice behind me and it says, "Is that Dave Romeo?" I turn around and I look. There's a woman about 150 feet behind me and she squats down to look and she goes, "Dave." And she comes up to me And she tells me who she is. I used to work with her mother 33 years ago. I met her a couple of times. I coached her a little bit. She came to one of my seminars. Hadn't seen her in over 20 years. But we were catching up and we're talking. And when we're done, I said, I can't believe that you could pick me out from 150 feet away in the dark at night from behind after 20 years of seeing me. And you know what she said? She said, it was that confident strut.
Wow.
Now, talk about somebody who had zero confidence before I got into the Guinness book.
Right.
And it just showed me how far you could come once you decide to adapt confidence. And I tell people all the time in that book I mentioned, Jeff, confidence is free.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to college to get it. You don't have to have a diploma hanging on your wall. You don't have to have it renewed every 4 years like your driver's license. You don't have to be over 21 years of age to be legally confident. You could just make that decision today to be confident. And if you're going to be confident, you need to act confident. You need to speak confidently. You need to look people in the eye, and you need to hold yourself confidently. And once you do that, Jeff, you know, people would rather do somebody who's confident about what they do than somebody that's apathetic about what they do.
Oh, absolutely. And look at you now. I mean, you've made a living at 25 years of doing something that you were petrified to do. Like, that is just mind-boggling to me.
You know, Jeff, I say this very often. You've been to my seminars, and like we just demonstrated in the podcast, mostly what I do is tell stories. I didn't even know that a grown man was allowed to make a living telling stories all day long. It's really incredible to me that that's allowed.
I know, and you've done so well at it, and you've inspired so many and coached so many. And, you know, any words of advice for anyone out there who's thinking about going out on their own, but they're afraid or they don't know what steps to take? Anything you'd say to them?
Well, there's plenty of things I can say.
I imagine.
First of all, if it's something that you want to do it. Don't wait for the perfect time, because you know what? There will never be a perfect time. Jeff, if I'm only remembered for one quotation, I hope it's this.
All right.
The biggest turning point in your life occurs when you decide not to give up on a dream or a goal just because it becomes difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it is, whatever you want to do, just do it now. There's only so many tomorrows that we have, but don't put off making your dreams come true. Just take steps, take action today. Do one thing today to bring you closer to your goal. And once you get into that mindset, you're never going to want to let it go away.
Absolutely. And if there's any listeners out there listening and you're thinking about taking that leap, I highly recommend that you do it. And you definitely need good coaches. One of the things that I was always told was Tiger Woods, who I consider to be the greatest golfer. I know that may be a debatable conversation for some, but for me, I think he was the greatest, had 3 and 4 coaches at all times through his heyday. Everybody, no matter who you are, needs coaches. Even coaches have coaches. So my advice would be to reach out to Dave and Romeo Networking and Coaching, and please attend his seminars. And his people that he has in his network are top-notch. They're some of the best people you'll ever meet, and he is one of the best coaches in the world. And we're lucky to have him here in the York and Lancaster area, and hey, with online stuff now, anywhere in the country. So I would highly recommend that you do that. I would like to thank everybody for joining us on this episode of the Red Wagon Estate Planning and Elder Law Show, hosted by me, yours truly, Jeffrey Belomo. I hope you enjoyed the show today, and until next time, we'll see you real soon.